I can remember when I was a wee little schleggy all those many, many decades ago, when Bears versus Packers really, truly meant something. When Bears versus Packers was a rivalry, felt like a rivalry, acted like a rivalry. And there was legitimately bad blood between the two teams, legitimately bad blood between the two fan bases. And it ain't been that way in a long, 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 long time. So when you get ready to start talking about this Week 6 matchup, it's Packers versus Bears. It's black and blue, old NFC Central, now NFC North shit. You remember quickly that there is absolutely no rivalry here. Like, this is the type of game that I should feel is more important. This is the type of game that I should point to and say, that's one of the ones I circle on the calendar every year. It's one of those games that should get my blood boiling. It's one of those games that should get me on edge. It's one of those games that should get me to talk shit to Packers fans all week long and in the weeks preceding. And it just doesn't. Because in order for there to be a rivalry, both teams actually have to consistently win games in said rivalry. And we know for the better part of almost the past 30 years, going back to when Favre became the starting quarterback in the early part of that 92 season, that this has been a one-sided, the Bears are the bitches in this situation, repeatedly saying, thank you, sir, may I have another. Whether it was Brett Favre or now it's Aaron Rodgers, it does not fucking matter. You get that rare glimmer of hope for the Bears winning in this rivalry, and then you get long sustained periods where the Packers kick the shit out of them. That's the reality. I mean, it absolutely is. You know, you think about it from a Packers fan standpoint, they hate the Cowboys, the Vikings, and 49ers, probably in that order, way more than they hate the Chicago Bears and Chicago Bears fans. As they should. Like, they've had meaningful, important, significant games against the Cowboys, Vikings, and 49ers over the past couple of decades. They've been situations in rivalries where, for the Packers, they've had times Cowboys have won games, Packers have won games. For the Vikings, same thing. 49ers, there's actually a period of time where the 49ers are kind of dominating the Packers a little bit. Like, so when you look at all of this, you could say, why in the hell would the Packers be bothered with the Bears? They shouldn't be. I don't mean this to make this like a cheese whiz piece here, but it's a fucking reality. Packers fans like to rib Bears fans, but the real truth is they're just doing that to troll because they're in the position where they can. They don't care. And they look at this game on the schedule and the other one later in the year, and they just view it as just another game. Whereas Bears fans look at this, to me, in a manner that I think is similar to how White Sox fans view the Cubs and Cubs fans compared to how Cubs fans view the White Sox and White Sox fans. You see it all the time, that little man syndrome, the small market team in the third biggest city in the country. White Sox fans obsess over the Cubs. They do. They love to talk shit to Cubs fans all the time. I've never gotten it because who the fuck cares? Playing head-to-head? Cool. Playing in the World Series? Even better. Other than that, stay in your own lane. Who gives a fucking shit? It's dumb. I know it's not, nothing wrong with the inner city rivalry. It's just fucking stupid. But of course, we're talking about Chicago, and we know is a bound full of stupidity. But White Sox fans obsess over the Cubs. Bitch about them all the time. They bitch about Cubs fans all the time. Cubs fans sometimes certainly will say their shit, but in general, they don't fucking care. They really don't. They're not worried about it. To be clear, a lot of Cubs fans aren't really worried about winning either, but that's the way I kind of look at this. Bears fans and the Bears organization worry more about the Green Bay Packers than vice versa. If you remember when Lovie Smith was hired before the 2004 season, he said number one goal of the program is to beat Green Bay. No, Lovie, the number one goal of the program is to win the fucking Super Bowl. And you could tell that was coming from the Phillips and McCaskey brain trust. Oh, yuck, gosh.
That's going to sound like good red meat to the fan base. It's all about the fans. Yuck, yuck. Let's tell them the #1 goal of the program is to beat Green Bay because we can't run a consistent, top-notch NFL operation. Gosh.
No, #1 goal of the fucking program is to win the Super Bowl. I don't care if the Bears lose to the Packers twice every season and then go on to win Super Bowls. Who gives a shit? Let the Packers have the meaningless wins. Give the Bears the ones that matter. You know what I mean? And you look at last year, it was more of the same old fucking song and dance story. Packers won both of the games in convincing fashion. That first matchup after the bye week on Sunday night, 41-25, and then that game at the end of the regular season that the Bears, it seemed like, might potentially need to win. Of course, they went out there and laid a fucking egg and ended up losing 35-16 as Green Bay pulled away late. And you can talk about individual moments in that game, which Bear fans are certainly going to point to. No, the final score is more of a reality of just how big the delta. It is a reflection of how big of the delta is between these two organizations. You see no reason for that to be any different now. Now, some of you are going to point to, well, the Packers are 4-1, yes, but the Bears are 3-2, so the gap has narrowed. Has it really, though? Because you look after the rough week 1 against the Saints, Packers have won 4 in a row. Aaron Rodgers is coming into form. Like, he hasn't been as great as in some seasons past, certainly not at the same level of last year, but he's still fucking Aaron Rodgers. And believe me, when he sees the Chicago Bears on the goddamn schedule, you know his eyes light up. Because he knows he's their daddy. Let's be clear. Aaron Rodgers is their daddy. And just like the rest of his family, he treats them like shit. That passing game, however, I will say, is really, really predominantly dominated by Aaron Rodgers throwing to Davante Adams, whereas Davante Adams already has 42 receptions in 5 games, 579 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So you look at that yardage total, like he's on pace damn near for 1,800-yard season. That's a big thing. Problem is the next closest wide receiver only has 11 receptions. I believe it's their back, Aaron Jones, that has 17 catches, that is second in receptions on the team. So you look at them offensively and you say, yeah, they can move the ball through the air, but it is very, very reliant upon, very, very predicated on Davante Adams having a big game, which at some point in time could come back to bite him. But it's going to come back to bite him against the Bears. Their defense is okay, but certainly not great, certainly not special, certainly not something, not a unit that is going to instill great fear or anything like that. And you look at their 4 wins and you say, okay, those wins were over the Lions, the 49ers, the Steelers, and the Bengals. None of those teams are exactly going to rock your world. Even though the Bengals are still 3-2, the Bengals lost to the Bears. I rest my fucking case. So some of you may look at this Packers team and say they're not that great. And I would kind of agree with you right now based off of what we've seen so far. But we have seen this time and time again over the years that if the Packers ever need a get-right game, if the Packers ever need something to feel better about themselves, they always point to those 2 games on the schedule against the Bears, and they feel very good about themselves. Meanwhile, for the Bears, they've won their last 2 after Sunday's road victory in Las Vegas. You've got Justin Fields settling in a little bit more in the offense, but it is an offense that is incredibly reliant upon the run, especially with the approach that you saw in Week 5. And the concern is there, you made a big move to go up and get Justin Fields. He has those elite physical talents that you haven't had at the quarterback position, so why would you want to coach him to try and be like a Mitchell Trubisky? It doesn't make any fucking sense. And now you look at this matchup for a team that's been heavily reliant upon the running game. They might not be able to be so much this week, as I'm assuming there's no David Montgomery, and I believe Damian Williams just got added to the COVID reserve list, so he's likely not going to be there. So you're going to see a healthy dose of Khalil Herbert, which I don't feel that terrible about come Sunday, but still not the same level of depth in their backfield. This is a major test for this defense because Bears fans want to think and believe that this Desai defense is great and they should know better. It's not. They're going to point to last week and say, hey, they held the Raiders under 300 total yards on offense, and they had an interception, a couple of sacks, held them to 9 points. It was easily the Bears' best defensive performance of the season. That's absolutely true. But look at the environment, the situation, and the circumstances of the opponent that they faced. It has to matter. The context matters here. And the reality is they're not a great unit. And if you can get into the Bears secondary, they could be fucking had all day long. The good thing for the Bears, though, defensively, is that their pass rush right now is great. They are getting pressure with Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn and Akeem Hicks and Travis Gibson. They are getting heat, consistent heat on opposing quarterbacks, which is the only saving grace for this Bears defense, because if they weren't getting that level of pressure from the front, they would be getting frickin' massacred every week in their secondary. It's that bad. And keep in mind that this is, the single biggest test for this Bears team, arguably all season. I would say even more so than if they were facing a Bills team or a Chiefs team or a Chargers team, somebody along those lines right now. And why would I say that? Because it's the Packers. Because Aaron Rodgers has been their daddy for over a decade. This is different. This is the single biggest test this defense is going to have this year, period. Green Bay ate that ass up last year. And if this Desai defense wants to show that they're still a top 10 unit in this league, this is the game that they have to prove it. They have to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers. Fucking don't even mess around. Double team Davante Adams and make the Packers beat you with other options in the passing game. Like defensively, those are the two things. You got to get heat on Aaron Rodgers or it doesn't matter. And even if you get some heat on Aaron Rodgers, it could still kill you. You have to double team Davante Adams and completely remove him from the game plan. And that's just not, I'm going to put Jalen Johnson on him and have him cover him all game and shadow him all game. Jalen's playing great. He really is. Everything you could have asked for, drafting him out of the second round out of Utah last year. But he alone is not enough. You have to rotate your entire coverage, double team, shit, triple team. I don't care. You have to take Davante Adams entirely out of the equation. Because if you don't, Rodgers and Adams are going to last dance all over this team's ass in Soldier Field on Sunday. And that's just a fact. I look at this matchup on Sunday, and I will say this, that if the Bears can run the ball and hit a couple of big plays in the passing game with Justin Fields, this is not going to be the same type of walkover that we saw in 2020 by Green Bay. This Green Bay team is not a great team. Their offense is a little one-dimensional, especially in the passing game. Their defense can be had. They can give up some big plays. So I look at it and I say, there is a chance that this Bears team is going to be competitive here. There is a chance that this Bears team could really make a game out of this. There's always that outside chance that the Bears could actually win this game. But I'm not fucking crazy. They have Aaron Rodgers. The Bears don't. I eagerly anticipate seeing how Justin Fields performs in his first start in this rivalry that isn't. This series is what we should call it. Because this is a statement game for him. And you can sit there and try to run the ball and defense your way to a victory, but that's not what you should be doing here. You have to run with the young man. You have to throw with the young man. You have to put it in the young man's hands. Because this is a chance to make a statement. This is a chance for him to make a big step forward. Even if the Bears were to lose this game by 3 points, but Justin Fields went toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers, imagine how much better you would feel. Meanwhile, if the Bears won this game by 3 points, I know a lot of you Bears fans would be all giggly tits and whacking off because they say, oh my God, they beat Green Bay. But if they did it with the same approach they took against the Raiders and Justin Fields only throws for 110 yards, like, does that really feel good? No, that feels like more of the same old bullshit. You didn't draft Justin Fields to be Mitchell Trubisky, so stop trying to hide Justin Fields like he's Mitchell Trubisky. Swing and miss if you must, but you've got to attack. You have nothing to lose here. So I like the Packers 30-20 in this matchup. I just don't know that trust the Bears enough on offense to unleash Justin Fields. And it could blow up in their face if they did that, absolutely. But if they continue to play it close to the vest like they tried to do both times in 2020, what's going to happen? As soon as the Bears don't get any momentum on offense or don't pick up any first downs on offense, Green Bay's going to get the ball back and they're going to torch them. It happens all the time. Why would this year be any different?